We're in a time, ladies and gentlemen, of misinformation. And Wani, I have a theory on this. I think that we're in the information age, and a lot of information is out. A lot of information is being is available, and I think agencies are out here spreading just pure misinformation to try to muddy the waters. You know what I'm saying? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that people can't be trusted with small amounts of information sometimes. So that's one of the issues where, um, like with Dane Calloway, he'll say some things that are right, but then he'll say some things that are graphically wrong. And people just run with it. And they'll, stab you in the eyeballs if you say something against him. And it's hard because a lot of people don't understand that you can open the Bible, see something that's legitimate, and then 90% of it is crazy and really doesn't fit with reality, but they're not going to listen to that. They're just going to listen to the other part and just fill in the blank. So it's just like anything else. They put some stories out about the moon landing being in a studio and not being real. I don't know if it's real or not. I didn't go up there. I can't verify it. I don't have equipment to prove it. But it's just because somebody put the story out that wanted attention, and then people just started thinking about it. I'm not against that. I'm not against second guessing things. Remember, people were burned at the stake for saying that the earth was round. They were killed for saying it was round. And the Bible at the time said that things about the round of the earth over and over again, in people's perspective when they were off of the earth, saying it was round. And yet the powers that be wanted to murder people for saying that it was round. They had the perception that they would get in a ship and sail off the edge of the earth, and you couldn't talk them out of it. That's what that's what the map said, and that's how they felt. So I'm not against revisiting things and second guessing things, because most of the things that we live by are theories,
Right.
And those theories could change at some point. So I'm not against it, but they do go off the rails. I think what people were really responding to is that the maps are extremely distorted. And that's feeding into the earth is flat theory because of the distorted maps.
Right. Well, that's a thing that's kind of frustrated me, Wani, about scholarship in general. We're taught that that theories are facts. Theories are theories. Like so many things that we think are facts or theories, and we were given the ability to question. That means something. If we weren't meant to question anything, we wouldn't have that ability. I've been doing a deep dive. I got a really excellent group of students this year who are just hyper academic. And for the first time in my career, I have my students, fact checking me and hitting me with scholarship. They're like, Professor A, that's wrong. And I'm not the type of dude to be like, I don't really have an ego. So, I'll just have like a burning desire to know. That's, a gift and a curse. But if you know something I don't know, grab a mic and educate me. And some of my students were educating me on, with respect to ancient history. They were talking about biblical texts, Wani. And one of my students blew my mind. She's from East Africa and she knows shit that I don't. And she was telling me that the Vatican, the Catholic Church, hid books away, which is something I talk about all the time, the Council at Nicaea. But she told me that it's well knowledge that and this may offend people in here, but this is according to one of my students, and I did some fact checking, and I'm seeing some validity to it. She was like, um, Jesus or Yeshua was an Essene. Have you ever heard that word? I never heard it before.
Essene?
Yeah, it's Essene, Essene. And I was like, what is that? And basically, she was saying that basically they were in. It was a group of mystery school people who had possessed powers, and the whole Christ thing. And I knew this: Christ is a consciousness. It's a Christ consciousness. It's a point of complete meditation where you know that whole Jedi thing, the mystery school thing, the Force, and all that. And she was telling me, I mean, she went deep as hell and hit me with scholarship, emailed it to me. She said that the Vatican and according to her, the Vatican got involved and spread disinformation to keep people from rising to the Christ consciousness. It blew my mind. But the reason why I brought that up is, like you said, there is like an effort to kind of spread misinformation to keep us away from learning stuff. You know what I'm saying? I think it's part of a bigger conspiracy. That's just my thoughts on the matter.
Well, they should have never allowed us to have the internet because it completely turned my life around and made everything very accessible, because I used to have to go to the library and leave with a whole bunch of books just to get something that I can get in 5 seconds. So they should have never done that. But some people have gotten the internet and they look at porn 24 hours a day. So everybody is not utilizing what's been given to us. You know, it is what you make out of it.
Well, everything the system of white supremacy does, if you look through the scope of history, backfires on them. Every master plan they have backfires. The internet was created by the military, so the military could communicate during a nuclear war. And this is just rumor, hearsay. But I was told through some credible sources that the web, the internet, the World Wide Web was extended to civilians to kind of spy on us, right? To see what we're doing. And the backfire is it connected us. So we're sharing information with each other. Like, I don't think they really comprehended that we would share information. And I think that's kind of why so many social projects have been spread to try to divide us, you know, from alleged viruses to social engineering, like our brother Mark Carter brings up a lot. But yeah, the internet backfired. We had a new speaker up here. I don't know where he went. He must have dropped. But DNA, let's talk about it right quick. So DNA was discovered in 1869. Well, first and foremost, let me say we don't know who the fuck discovered DNA.
No, it's on the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and they have a lot of ancient things that have that look that refer to
the double helix.
It's probably, I'm not 100% sure what it's called in these different backgrounds. But yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised at how long people have been talking about atoms. But of course, we know who gets credit for it. But yes, atoms and the structure of man, and knowing that an egg is involved in our development.
Wow. And look,
There are a lot of things that are very ancient that we knew about that we really shouldn't know about.
I tell my students all the time, and I've told y'all for the year I've been on Twitter, the year and 1.2 years I've been on Twitter, that the best place to hide something is in plain sight. Wani, that's the first time I've ever heard that. So what did I do? I typed in Egyptian DNA symbol in Google, and bam, I've been looking at the caduceus all my life and didn't even realize that the snakes on the caduceus is a goddamn DNA double helix. Go figure. Wow. The
Now,
and
go ahead.
what I was about to do, ladies and gentlemen, let me use my big old dumb butt as a teachable moment. You know what I was about to do? I was about to give credit for the discovery of the DNA double helix to a white man. I was about to say Frederick Meisner first identified DNA in 1869, when before 4500 BCE we got a goddamn double helix on the caduceus of the Egyptian on the Egyptian caduceus. Wow. You see how tainted and skewed education is towards the praise and exaltation of white supremacy?
Well, I just noticed that a lot of things in our in Western beliefs come from Egypt because all the Greeks went over to Egypt. So a lot of these ideas and notions, they'll say, oh, the atom as an individual building block of matter was first, comes from these Greek philosophers, but then they will say also that, oh, and by the way, they went over to the mystery schools and that's what they were talking about in Egypt. So every time they say something that the Greek, and I'm not against Greek, the Greco-Roman Empire, because they were able to uh, go over and be connoisseurs of cool things, which is kind of something that the European does. They go out into the world and they find cool things and bring these concepts or ideas or spices or something over to their world. And I don't think they originally started off saying it was theirs, because there's too many letters and writings of them saying, I went over there and got it. But their future generations definitely have that attitude that the whole world was created by them. It's very similar to what's happened with us and the immigrants, where they first came over, wide-eyed, like, wow, what are you guys doing? We got it from you. We're playing James Brown's music. And then a couple of generations later, um, they're saying they have nothing to do with that, and they created all of our music genres. So it's kind of like the same thing. It's just willful ignorance toward the roots of things.
Yeah, it's a colonization of ideas is what it is, and it's very dangerous. And we're just now taking the steps to gatekeep our own culture, which we should have been doing the whole time. But Bobby Hemmett once let us know that, um, given the fact we're have high levels of melanin at its essence is a creative force, and it's in a perpetual system of creation. And if you think about it, it makes sense. We'll create a dance and get sick of it and say, hey, you can have this. I mean, even think, I'm a 80s baby, and if you think back in the 80s, um, we created, R&B, and R&B was hitting a zenith in the 90s, and somewhere along middle school in the mid to late 90s, I remember we kind of just gave R&B to white boys. If y'all are old enough to remember, we just said, we're sick of R&B, and B, and we let Backstreet Boys and what was Justin Timberlake's sorry ass group, NSYNC. We just get we
I didn't pay attention to them.
I finished at a white high school, so I had no choice but to pay attention to them. And all the black people at this high school was like, "Wait a minute, why are they trying to act like black too?"
I saw them, but it's like, they're just there.
But the point is, we've given it away. Just and that's not a point of weakness. I'm just not saying like we're the a weak student and the white man's a bully and he's taking our lunch money. It's not like that. It's just like we get it's kind of like a hand me down. Like, I'm sick of wearing, like a little brother, like we're sick of wearing these jeans. I'm sick of these Nikes. Here, man, you can have these. I'm gonna
No, you're right. On that, it is, because we'll be enamored with something and then we won't, it'll be like, oh, let's on to the next thing. But a couple of music genres, that's not how it went. Like with country, they just basically, said, oh, thanks for showing us how to play the guitar. Goodbye. And made a couple of little fine print comments at the bottom of the page while they ran off to be the kings and queens of country music. Same thing with rock and roll, kings and queens of rock and roll, and acted like we have nothing to do with our own music genres. But yeah, some of these other things we did kind of play around with them, like reggae beats and stuff like that. Created them and then jetted off on to the next thing. Well, but let's get back to that DNA. Let's get back to the DNA real quick.
Okay.
You want to?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. So one thing I noticed when I was doing National Geographic's Genome Project, which was the first DNA test that I took, it did not have Khoisan listed as a sub-Saharan African. Wow. And I said, yeah, so I had this, they called it Bushman. So I knew what Bushman was. So I looked at this and I said, I called the guy, because this was more of an intimate thing. It wasn't like 23andMe where you can't call and ask questions. This thing would let you call and ask questions on National Geographic's Genome, which is no longer in business. They closed the whole site down. But anyway, I called and he said, they're not African like that. And I was like, what do you mean? They're in Africa and they're the oldest people in it. He said, no, their DNA is very distinct. It's to them. And they're not listed with the other Africans. That's why it's not calculated in your African genetics. And I could not understand it. My brain would not wrap around it. But it's true. They have nothing to do with the other Africans. They don't look like them. They come from another. They just come from another source, and it's kind of hard for us to understand. A lot of hominids came from Africa, and Africa is not a race. It has no bearing on what you really look like. Everything came from there. I literally tracked the migrations of everyone. And everybody came out of there. That's a Homo sapien. That's where Homo sapiens come from. And if you're some other kind of hominid, fine. But everybody, as far as I know, is a Homo sapien. And they came out of there. And the changes, they adapted to different areas. And they had changes and mutations along the way, and then other migrations where those people with mutations moved into places where they had less mutations. And that's what we're dealing with now. Those are the groups of people we have now. So the DNA, I think people are frustrated because they play a lot of tricks. So they'll say that Luzia looks like a Negro, and then they'll backtrack on it and go, oh, no, we can't determine the race of the person by the skull. Okay, then what's forensic files about? You're determining race and sex based on skull shapes. You're saying this skull belongs to a white woman. This skull belongs to a black woman. This person is a woman. This person is a man based on their pelvic bone. So they just basically lie is what they're doing. When you see a particular skull, you know who that belongs to, and you know how that person is going to look if you were to see them living. Features are features, and your skull doesn't lie. That's how the woman looked. And if we saw her, we would say she's a black woman. She would not look like a person from Siberia. So even though they want to say, oh, no, she's Asian, and put her in the group with the Aboriginals and call them Asians as well, they're only calling them Asians because they spent time there. They came out of Africa, stayed in Central Asia for a while, went down to Southeast Asia, and then moved south to populate Australia. That is why they're called Asians. But they're just like everybody else. They left Africa and came out of Africa, had some mutations with Neanderthals and Denisovans, and moved along. They are different than Africans because Africans did not leave Africa, do not have any kind of admixtures with Neanderthals and Denisovans. So they're different in that sense. I'll take a break for now.
Well, the Khoisan are a very different group of people. Like, they don't look typical to sub-Saharan Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I spent a good deal of my scholarship, my studying in West Sub-Saharan, what below the equator. So Sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana, Togo, parts outside of Nigeria, Benin. I've done research in those jungles, and the people, the skin color, the indigenous skin color of the people there is really deep dark, and even the soil and the leaves are dark green, like it's a dark, heavily melanated place. And the Khoisan are from that sub-Saharan region, several degrees further south. However, they're like my color. Like, what is going on here? Where are these people from? Wanda, do you have any leads on their origin?
Well, they're first, and everything else that branched off from them made some changes. And remember, it's not like you had some Khoisan in South Africa and some people walked over to West Africa. We're talking about movements over tens of thousands of years. And that's why you have the dramatic changes in the way that people look. I'm not sure, but let's get back to this DNA test. I'm going to, like a lot of people will say, hey, they swabbed a frog's mouth or a lizard and sent it in and it said they were Nigerian. No, they didn't. I don't believe any of that. So basically, when people say they don't believe in DNA, ask yourself this: what is the Innocence Project about? Why have they freed so many people based on DNA tests? Why do we believe it then? Why do we believe in DNA when it's catching criminals or determining whether the child is yours or determining? Now, if I was a criminal, I would not want to get my DNA tested. And in fact, it doesn't even matter, because if you're a criminal, and you don't want to put your DNA in there, which I think that's why people don't like it that much, it doesn't matter. Because if your sister or your cousin did it, they're just going to see the DNA and say, this is close to this person's DNA. And then they're going to say, who's your cousin? I mean, that's what they're literally doing. They're jacking people up right now with DNA. I'm not lying. Some random guy sitting at home. Do you have a brother? This DNA looks just like yours, kinda.
And a computer does it immediately.
Right. And then he'll go, yeah, I have 3 brothers. One of them died. This one is dead. The other one is down the street. Okay, well, coming over to get your brother. He's a rapist. That is the future. So you don't have to put your DNA in, but if anybody in your family, your cousins, or whatever. So when people say that 23andMe and all those are fake, I'll give you my experience. I took the National Geographic genome. It gave me a certain profile. Then I took 23andMe. It's about the same. I took another one, the Ancestry.com. It's about the same. It's the same thing. And I did not put my name in. I bought a few kits for my family and friends because they didn't want to buy them themselves because they were scared of being busted. But I bought it under my company name. I bought about 8 of them. So, no, they don't know my name. Then when I signed in, I just used a code name. So I don't have my name attached to, my swab. So that's how I protected myself from being anonymous. And so did my cousins and friends who did it. So that's one thing. I do believe that it gives you a general idea, but yes, it is very weak on Native American samples. In fact, when you look at the Lumbee tribe, they're living on reservations. Like, these are really card-carrying Native Americans, according to them and their history. Yet, they have like 2% Native American DNA. They're like 80-20, basically black, white, with a tiny bit of Native American. They're really no different than us, except they're whiter. They're not more native, they're more white. Okay, so that's weird. And I've looked at a lot of them because my grandmother comes from that part of the world, but whatever her branch is, she branched away from the Lumbee and doesn't, really know that much about it, except they're just a bunch of cousins. So what else about DNA did we want to talk about? Oh, so anyway, I think Trey Day wants to.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Trey Day and Fawcett. Go ahead, Trey Day. I ain't seen you in a minute, man. What's going on?
Tell me about
new work schedule, man. New work schedule, man.
I understand, bro.
Shit crazy, man. I'm getting used to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know how it is. But yeah, y'all talking about the Khoisan earlier and how they were like lighter skin and whatnot.
Yeah, educators. What's that about?
Now I don't know. Well, I mean, the thing is, I noticed a lot of South Africans, like they tend to be lighter skinned than people more north in the equatorial parts of Africa.
No,
you think
that's because they got the
Khoisan
yeah, they got the umbrella of the Khoisan.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that though. Like their hair is beady though. Their hair tends to be more beadier, but like more spaced out. Like the beads are way more spaced out. If that makes sense. But I just noticed that skin gradient tends to be slightly more lighter than people more north in more the equator part. And you mentioned the Lumbee too. Yeah, the Lumbee, that's a fake ass tribe. That's a bunch of mulattoes who were trying to hide from slavery. Yeah, that's they ain't legit. Man, they some motherfuckers too. They don't like black people either. Man, they some racist
and they're
motherfuckers.
Black.
Man,
I've been looking at all their DNA profiles. That's what I said. If they're Native American, then we're Native Americans. The same thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I saw a video of them like 5 years ago, and they were like on some MAGA shit, on some they were on some redneck hick shit, like on some get out of here, nigger. Like they was on that shit. Like man, I found the video.
No wonder my grandmother don't want nothing to do with them.
Man, look, they think they white for real. Like they had to distinguish themselves from black people to not be slaves back in the day, and they just kind of kept that little attitude to try to appease the white folk or try not to be the main target of the white folk. But still, the white folks still fuck with them. But yeah, they really try to play up to that anti-black shit. To that's they real racist against niggas, man. Like they.
Oh, we can talk about that. The fear of being considered a Negro was extremely intense among all the. How do I say Mulligan? Because I never know how to say it. Whatever.
Melungeon.
Oh God, the Melungeon. I always want to say it wrong. Anyway, but what happened with them is one generation of black men and like Northern European women went up there to settle because they said we'll leave
you. Black students, we need to know our history.
The black history we're being taught in public schools is repetitive.
As a black high school student, I want to learn more about my history in the school books.
We need to update our books.
As black American students, we deserve an accurate depiction of what black history truly is.
I want to see myself in these textbooks.
In the public school system, black history is vague.
Why don't the school books ever talk about the Freedmen's Bureau?
I created the workbook for the African American family. This book helps fill in the gaps that the school books don't. Purchase the workbook for the African American family on ourstorypublications.com and use the Cash App, $Our Story Publications.